A trio of vigilantes have been jailed for confronting, beating, and violently kidnapping at knife point a predatory Bradford landlord who fleeced them out of a deposit for an uninhabitable flat. Zaire Jackson-Burchall, who's 27, Jah'rico Smith-Gardiner, who's 25, and his sister Shanikae Smith-Gardiner, who's 28, bundled the man into a car in broad daylight and drove him to Sheffield, where he was held against his will. Bradford Crown Court heard that over a 7-hour period, the man was blindfolded, threatened, punched, slapped, and offered water from a dog bowl before being rescued by police and freed. This degrading experience left him psychologically traumatized and with cuts, bruises, and a nail torn from his finger. In the meantime, his father received a telephone call demanding £5,000 for the safe return of his son. The father went to the bank to withdraw the cash, where he had a near breakdown. So the court heard that Shanikae Smith-Gardiner had responded to an advertisement for a flat to rent in Bradford and was driven there from Sheffield on August 11th by Jackson-Burchall. She met the landlord, withdrew £400 as a deposit and paid it to him. However, the flat was found to be in an abandoned-looking building. Jackson-Burchall messaged him to complain it was a scam and threatened to go to the police and demanded just send the money back. However, no reply was received. The trio asked a friend to make a fake inquiry to the landlord about one of his properties to arrange to meet the very next day so they could get his ass and extract revenge. Wearing ballies, they met the landlord in the Barkham Red area and in a confrontation caught on CCTV, hit him twice on the head with a rock, threatened him at knife point and chased him down the street before frog marching him into a car in front of shocked witnesses. He was driven to an address in Sheffield where calls were made to his father demanding £5,000 if he wanted to see his son again. The prosecutor, Felicity Amlin, said this was a clear intention to get him to a place where they could confront him, effectively acting in a vigilante manner. He said there is clear provocation here. Someone has been defrauded out of £300. One may think that whatever action occurred didn't merit the extent of what was meted out thereafter. No personal victim statement was ever put forward. The court heard that the landlord was restrained and assaulted in Sheffield and subjected to what the judge said was an attempt at waterboarding, as hot water was poured over his face whilst he was blindfolded. Other evidence presented by the landlord was said to be unreliable and over-exaggerated. The judge said he needed to stop. Jah'rico Smith-Gardiner pleaded guilty to kidnap, false imprisonment and blackmail, and his sister, Shanikae Smith-Gardiner and Zaire Jackson-Burchall, were found guilty at trial of kidnap and false imprisonment but acquitted of blackmail. In mitigation, Philip Mahoney said the kidnapping and false imprisonment were a spontaneous escalation that arose out of the confrontation and were not premeditated. He said it's one thing to say that the frauds for a few £100s, the conduct that the landlord was engaging in with a lot of other people is in its own way quite despicable. He was a scam artist. He said this landlord, he was targeting vulnerable people and the predatory defrauding of people at the bottom of society with very little money, living in an age when affordable housing is desperately short. Those are the people that this landlord chose to fleece, and that's why they did what they did to him. Judge Burns said the evidence at trial made it quite clear. He said that in my view, that this was the latest in a series of advertisements in respect of flats or other properties which either didn't exist, were occupied, or in such a state to be unoccupiable, except that you had felt that you'd been defrauded. I'll come to something at the end of this, but Judge went to say the right course of action for all of you would have been to have gone to the police as complainants in a fraud allegation. Instead, because of the choices that you took at the time and the actions that you subsequently took, now you fall for a sentence as convicted defendants in a case in which the landlord is the complainant, even though he was a scammer. It's clear from the jury's verdict that they did not consider the landlord to be a reliable witness. He was blagging it half the time, but in my judgment, his account of the circumstance of the kidnap is generally borne out. However, his continuing assertion that the trigger for this incident was nothing to do with fraudulent activity in the face of substantial evidence to the contrary, coupled with his taking advantage of the privilege against self-incrimination as a witness, even on matters which were not connected with those allegations of fraud, undoubtedly drove the jury to the conclusion that his accounts of events were either untrue or in some parts they were over-exaggerated in others. So the judge sentenced Zaire Jackson-Burchall to 6 years and 8 months for each count of kidnapping and false imprisonment to run concurrently. Shanikae Smith-Gardiner received 5 years for each count to run concurrently, and Jah'rico Smith-Gardiner was handed a 5-year sentence for kidnapping and false imprisonment plus 18 months for blackmail to run concurrently. The judge imposed an indefinite restraining order on all three to prevent them contacting the complainant in the future. So guys, what do you think with regards to that story? Let me know in the comments below. So I'm going to tell you something now. So probably about 6-7 months ago, I was on Facebook Marketplace and I was looking for something. And I messaged a person and I said, listen, I'm interested in this. Are you selling it? And the guy come back and said to me, oh, by the way, mate, I haven't got it anymore. However, I bought it off this website and I'll give you this discount. Click the link. Also, listen, if I wanted to click a link, I would have searched for a link. I want to buy this thing off you. Selling it or not? He didn't respond back. Then there was another knobhead. I approached him as well. I said, listen, are you selling this thing? And he's come back and said, oh, unfortunately, I haven't got it, but I got it at a heavily discounted price. It's $5.99. Contact this number, click this link, and you'll be able to get it like me. So it's one of those Nintendo Switches. Anyway, cut long story short, got in contact with someone that was actually selling it. So he told me to meet him. So, and he's given me his address and whatnot. Anyway, so I've gone there, gone to the address, called him. He says, listen, come around the corner. I'm not at my address. I'm doing something. Went around the corner and he's fucking standing there. So he's got this Switch in this red and blue case. So he's going to give me, and he asks me for the money. I says, listen, relax. I got the money. Show me the fucking thing. So I asked him a couple of times to actually unzip the case so I can have a look what's inside, what the thing looks like. He's saying, no, I'm not going to sell it. Anyway, whilst he's talking to me, I'm thinking, oh, you know what, mate, do one. And I put the window up, about to drive off, and the thing fell in my lap. So I picked it up to give it back to him. But then I thought, hang on a second, it's quite heavy. Like, there must be something in there. So I thought, listen, mate, why didn't you just show me? And I unzipped it. Guess what? Motherfucker had Panasonic batteries in there. And by the time I looked up, he'd legged it. So I was looking at that situation because, as they say, if a deal is too good to be true, it is. And I know this, but I don't know, in my head, I didn't know about these Nintendo Switches or whatever. So I just thought I was getting a good deal. But yeah, online, there's a lot of scam artists. So just make sure that if you are going to be giving somebody a deposit or you're going to be meeting someone to purchase something, always make sure that you're with someone. And if you are going to be doing a transaction, these days it's best to do it via a bank transfer, because then at least there's a trail of where your money's gone. But yeah, that's a new story coming out from the streets of the UK. Once again, if you already haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel. Please give this video a little like, as it helps the algorithms and promote it for others to view as well. Once again, big respect when I see each and every one of you. It's your boy GC. Keep it locked, keep it real.